It is a beautiful day here in the Peak District, but like quite a lot of people right now, from what I hear, a lot of my mental space is taken up thinking about and worrying about artificial intelligence. And I've made a big video on artificial intelligence before, and there are a lot of questions about A, whether it is going to be as good as people claim, and B, the ethics of it and what the consequence of that might be, morally and also legally. But I want to put those things to side for now. Now, AI seems to be doing a lot of things really well. And in many ways, I'm very lucky. I have a job that I think is probably more AI-proof than a lot of jobs. And there are questions about whether lines of work, industries, skill sets will evolve to either use AI, or people will be sick of AI, or people will more seriously consider the ethical consequences or the legal consequences of AI. But let's take it for granted for a second that AI might replace a lot of the skills that we commonly use to earn a living. How can we make ourselves AI-proof? Now, a lot of this is going to be kind of personal to me, but I've tried to universalize it as much as possible. So hopefully you can find something in here that would be useful to you. The first and most obvious is to know the technology, know AI intimately. Thoreau said that man risks becoming the tool of tools, that our technology can risk using us rather than the other way around. Marshall McLuhan talked about them as being the extensions of man. And I think you cannot avoid, especially if you want to continue working in an area that is going to be using AI, getting to know it as well as possible, getting to know what it does, how it works, and also what its limitations are. And I'll give you a quick example. One thing for me is that I can feed in a lot of what I'm thinking about, what I'm writing, what I've read, and it's good for ideation. It might give me examples of things that I've missed or haven't thought about, or point me in a direction that might be useful as an example for what I'm talking about. But what it doesn't do very well is give me the high quality, trusted data or facts that I know I can rely on straight away. What I do is get it to point me elsewhere, ask for a citation, and then I go and read it myself. At the same time, it might give me pointers on how I write, but it's not going to replace me as a writer. It's always going to be like an assistant. It hallucinates a lot. So know how it works, but also know how it relates to what you do. Okay, number two is an obvious counterpoint to this, but understand what it means to be human and what it means to be human in relationship to machines. Think about emotions, think about speech and personality and connections and anything that's embedded and is not replaceable by computer technology. And I'll give you one example of this. I am always trying to improve the way I speak to you on camera. It's a skill that is very difficult, but I slowly develop over time. I read about it, I watch videos about it, I listen to podcasts about it, I improve it with exercises, I practice a lot. Hopefully that's irreplaceable in some way. I am a human, I promise you. Number three is a bit of a weird one, but I think one of the things that's surprising people about AI is that they thought that the creative skills would be last to be replicated, that a machine could never be an artist. And, you know, ChatGPT and Gemini have got incredibly good at this very quickly, and it's now quite difficult to argue, I think, that this isn't some kind of quote-unquote art. But one of the last things that it's going to be able to replicate is dexterity. That's proving really hard. You cannot build an AI or robotics that has a very effective human hand. The human hand, you know, is one of the most advanced things on the planet other than the human brain and the human physiology in general. And I think if you can somehow tap into that, that will provide a strong line of defense. You know, industries like care work, crafts, that sort of thing, they are always going to be in demand. And I know that might not be your line of work, but even in what I do, I'm trying to get tactile. I'm trying to think of the real world. I'm trying to think of including more real books and things, thinking about a way in which talking to you about intellectual abstract ideas can be made physical with my hands. I'm learning to draw, for example, just a nice thing to do. And I think there will be some way in which that relates to you, hopefully. Number 4, community. Get out. Think about how your industry is a real network. Think about how your location is a real network of people. Touch grass. Be outside. I think we hand over so many of our jobs we outsource them to social networks and machines and LinkedIn and the rest of it. So it just becomes this rote, robotic, abstract process. And I think thinking about how you can get out in amongst people and really connect with people is going to be crucial in the future. Obviously, AI is not going to be able to meaningfully replicate that, I don't think. So, connect with people, join up with people, go and meet people, take the extra step away from the screen and into real life. I think that will pay dividends. Number 5 goes somewhat in the opposite direction, but I think people are going to have to think about their kind of brand identity more, their profile more. I think the kind of thing that I do on Then and Now and what so many people do on Instagram and TikTok will become the norm. And so many people think, I have to do this as either a side hustle and hopefully it can be a job later on, or it's a pipe dream. But other people think of it as a hobby, something to do on the side. But I think people need to start thinking of it as a kind of norm, building some kind of brand around your personality, your skill set, what you offer, what you do, so that someone can see it and can decide that they want to connect or work with you in some way. I feel like if that's there, even if it's in the minimum, that's a great thing to get started on. And I think, in the future, being a influencer is the wrong word, and it's definitely not what I do, but, having a profile, whatever, will just be the norm. In the future, not having a profile of some kind like that, a public facing profile, especially for young people coming up now, will be abnormal. Number 6 is get ahead. In some ways, I think AI is always going to be behind. That is, it's trained on massive sets of data that are conservative, that are built up in the past. So to get ahead, I mean, think about the things that are really, really current, that might be happening today, tomorrow, next week, next month. Think about fashion, trends, culture, where we're going, where we're heading. Be at the spearhead of whatever you do, because AI is always going to be lagging in some way behind that. And I think in my case, that is thinking about the now and then and now. I try to connect history and philosophy to the present in some way. So, AI might be able to spew out a narrative on the American Revolution, but is it going to be able to tap in to current anxieties and politics and maybe what's on the news at the moment, and to be able to connect that to the present in some way? And I think that is what it means to be, and I hate this term, I'm sorry for using it, but a thought leader. That just means to me, don't just say what everyone else is saying, try and say something original. Original is always ahead of the derivative. Number 7, have you noticed how AI always tries to be balanced in some way? It tries to tell you two sides of the story. It tries to play devil's advocate. It's a very good synthesizer of information, but it can only say you should do this based on this set of priorities. But if your preference is this, then you should do this. It always gives you two sides of the story. It always tries to be balanced. And that's because I think it doesn't have a very good theory of mind, in that human minds have to make singular decisions out of complex scenarios. They can't sit on the fence when it comes to action in the real world. So where AI doesn't have to make any real world decisions, you do. There are two ways to counter that. So the first is that remember that if AI tries to be balanced, the world isn't. Always take a stance. Be good at making decisions. Think about what is required to make a decision. Think about time frames. Think about when is good to act and when isn't. Think about how much information you need, that kind of thing. And be the person that can make the quick decisions in a world of information overabundance where everyone else is swimming in too much information. Sometimes there is such a thing as too much knowledge. Be the person that can take action instead of thinking. And then very related to that, number 8, is that AI does the big and the general very well. Again, it can synthesize large data sets. And you might think it's very good at being specific, that going hyper niche. But I think humans are much better at being experts in very specific areas. So whereas everyone else goes big and again looks at the overabundance of knowledge and might know a little bit of everything, go very specific, go very niche, be the king of one area of expertise, be the person to go to on that. And again, connect it with all the things we've talked about: human emotion, human speech, human thought, community, passion, personality, character, friendship, love, hate, anger, frustration, all the rest of it, and become hyper human in that area of expertise. Think about the trust required. Think about how to communicate that expertise. Know where to go. Because, if you're an expert in a specific area, I don't know, say pamphleteering during the American Revolution, to take an example that I've already talked about, then when you ask ChatGPT or Gemini, you know exactly how much is wrong. You're such an expert that you're never going to need to go to it because it's only relying on all the literature that you've studied. So be an expert like that. Know a small body of knowledge better than an AI can. Number 9, at the moment, AI is low trust. Think about what it means to be high trust. Be a high trust person in a low trust world, because developing trust is really difficult. You need to be good at what you do. You need to be reliable. You need to turn up. You need to have good connections. You need to be the person that someone depends on, that knows that you're an authority. And again, going back to say the last example, that person who is an expert in their field is very high trust. At the moment, AI is very low trust, and you can build trust, I think, by doing all the things that we've just talked about, but knowing your entire world very well. Knowing the right people, who to listen to and who to send people to if they're after something that you can't help with, that you can't know. Reference authoritative, high trust data, sources, people, events, places, industries, companies, whatever it is. On Then and Now, I always cite my sources. I always put a reference. I always put the scripts up. I always talk about what goes on behind the scenes, how I make the videos. I let people know that there's a person with the qualifications and the expertise and the due diligence and the conscientiousness to deliver information that they can rely on, that they can trust. And finally, number 10 is kick up a fuss, complain about it, moan about it, find its weak spots. Don't be told this is inevitable, we just have to accept this technology and use it or die. Be told by bosses that it does our jobs better than we do. Learn about the ethics of what's right and wrong about it, and advocate for a better world where we use the technology doesn't use us. Be both a technologist and a neo-Luddite at the same time. I'm reading a lot about burnout at the moment, and a lot of the research on burnout goes back to technology. AI in particular, when you imagine it in the public consciousness, in the cultural consciousness, in movies and books, has a dystopian side, but at its very basic, it's meant to be something that does something for us, that saves us time, that helps humans. Do you feel like that's happening? Do you feel like it's saving you time and helping you? Or does it feel like it's forcing you to compete with other people by doing work quicker and quicker, by just pumping out low quality content, by accepting all of this and using it to pump out email after email after email, or new thought after new thought after new thought, or analyze data set after data set after data set quicker and quicker than ever before? The work will always fill the time. And that's a problem with capitalism. That's not a psychological problem. That's a problem of the race to the bottom, the pressure on wages, the need to increase profits and to increase the bottom line and to impress investors over humans with flesh and blood and needs. So I think we have to remember the question with AI is always not what it can do, but who it can do it for. And all the technologists that say to you, it's going to create great art and movies and music, and it's going to do all of your work for you. Just remember that if it can do something easily, then everyone will be doing it. The cultural sphere, the public sphere will be flooded with it. And if that's the case, who's paying you to do this? How are you going to afford to live? Value comes from something that is rare. And if the world is flooded with AI writing and images and music and all the rest of it, that's not rare. That's valueless. The place where AI is going to make a difference is in large-scale industries, in new medicines, in technology, in, I don't know, cars, self-driving, healthcare, all the rest of it. And if that's the case, is it working for you? Or is it working for the people with the means? Is it working for your boss? Is it working for capitalists? I have a very bad feeling about where this is going at the moment, but I do believe you have to be half technologist and half neo-Luddite about it. Technology needs to be shaped to our needs, not the other way around, and we need to decide democratically how to use these technologies, how to regulate them in a sophisticated way so that they produce human flourishing, that they don't just speed up the rat race. Now, these are just preliminary thoughts from me. Let me know if you have any to add in the comments. I'm serious about that because I am anxious about this at the moment, so it would help me out too. Thank you all. See you next time.